Okay, so, new specialization. I am very excited, if it isn't plainly obvious. Although, first, if I'm going to be entirely honest, I did misunderstand this post because I thought that was it this one? Anyway, um, I can't remember which one it was, but I thought that we were gonna get update 1.0.12 and the new DLC announcement at the same time. So I originally thought I would be making this video looking at both update 1.0.12 and the new DLC. And we just got the new DLC, which, I mean, I'm not complaining. New DLC, and it's free apparently, which is awesome. I did not expect it to be free, but so this video isn't going to be as long as I thought it would be. Anyway, I digress. We have a video. I'm not going to watch the video, mainly because I'm not entirely sure I can without getting in trouble with YouTube. But I have watched the video. Multiple times, in fact. Dear players, at this year's Slytherin Next event, we are excited to reveal the Baltic Battalion specialization coming in early 2026 as a free DLC for everyone. The Baltic Battalion is a brand new army specialization accessible to the US, with cutting-edge European weaponry, sophisticated infantry formations, and next-generation vehicles built for layered defense, mobility, and quick reaction battle. This new specialization, which represents the combined forces of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, increase your tactical options. Now, I said this before, and I'll say it again. The reason why I think, or at least I hope, they're folding this in with the US is because there is no European nation. I have seen some people question why it's put with the US when it would make sense as a European nation. The problem is that there's only one specialization, and you need two of them to make a deck. So if they made it a European nation, you wouldn't be able to use it. I mean, sure, you could look at the units, but you wouldn't be able to use it because you couldn't make a deck out of it. And if they somehow allowed you to make a deck with only one specialization, then you only have 5,000 points to play with. Unless you somehow manage to double up the specialization, which still wouldn't make much sense. Now, one thing that I hope... Oh, and yes, I did wishlist the new DLC, obviously. Why wouldn't I? Now, one thing that I would hope is that eventually Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia are going to be sort of grouped together into a Baltic States nation in the same way that the US and Russia is, and that we're going to get at least one specialization for each. So what you might see is this specialization come out, and then eventually, if we get a Baltic States nation, they're going to take the Baltic Battalion specialization, they're effectively going to remove it, and then parcel the units out to the other three specializations, one for each of the Baltic states. And there's another reason why I'm going to mention that, which we're going to see when I actually look at the specialization, the DLC page. This may also be another reason why the specialization is free, because if they're eventually going to remove it, you're probably going to run into some issues from angry players, and potentially even legal trouble, if people paid for it in advance, or if people paid for it and then they were to go and they were to effectively remove it. In case you missed the event, you can rewatch it here. If I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched the first roadmap event yet, so this is another thing I need to watch. We also announced that on January 27th, we will be hosting a new livestream event where we will share an update to the roadmap, upcoming content, and much more. So this is another thing to look forward to. Additionally, the game will be discounted by 15% from December 9th at 6 to December 16th at 6 CET or Central European Time, and then again from December 18th to January 5th. Now, I wonder why they're doing that, because they're only, if I understand correctly, there's only like, that's, now I originally thought that was during a weekend. Hang on real quick, let's see if I can do this. Yeah. Okay. There was only, like, that's not during a weekend, so why can't they just discount it from the 9th all the way to January 5th? But anyway, I digress. I think that's kind of odd, but it's no big deal. Can I go to this? Yay, here we go. Hush. Hush. Anyway. Okay, so, what do we have here? About the content, the first specialization DLC for Broken Arrow introduces the Baltic Battalion, brand new army specialization. Okay, I think we've already went over that. Take command of state-of-the-art Baltic troops and prepare to engage in dynamic combined arms operations with your U.S. forces, including tanks, artillery, aircraft, mechanized infantry, and elite recon teams. Infantry specialization system. Each infantry role of this specialization gives a selection of units from three Baltic countries, each with unique battle styles, weaponry, and strengths. This allows players to mix the Latvian adaptability, Lithuanian firepower, and Estonian technology in their battalion to suit their strategy. With 24 vehicles and planes, including 18 original additions and 6 interoperable assets previously utilized by the U.S. military, the Baltic Battalion Specialization DLC broadens the motor pool from light transports and reconnaissance vehicles to tanks, IFVs, artillery, and multi-role aircraft. This varied array is built for mobility, combined arms operations, and layered defense. Now, here's the thing. Yes. Key features: 1 new army specialization, 21 new infantry units from Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, 24 vehicles and aircraft, 18 unique models, 1 new map, AI presets, solo/co-op scenarios showcasing the Baltic units. Okay. Now, if I go over here, we can get a potential look at some of the upcoming units. And as you can see, we already have a number of Baltic units in the game. And if I'm going to be entirely honest, and I'm going to try and avoid ranting here, because this is honestly going to be part of another video that I'm going to make. I've seen people complaining that, oh, they're just taking the units from the campaign and they're putting them in the game as a DLC. Okay, and it's a free DLC. Stop whining about it. Anyway, I digress. But we have a number of unique units: the CV-9035, the XA-180, the Vilkas, the Scimitar, the Leopard 2A7. And if I'm going to be entirely honest, I said it before and I'll say it again. If we get a Leopard 2A7, and, well, I mean, we get a Leopard, it's actually Leopard 2A8. I don't know what this is. Or I don't know the stats for that, I mean, but this is going to be flat out OP if we get anything like this. You get all of this for only 210 points. This is just going to be straight up OP. Anyway, we have unique units. But they did say that 6 of the units were going to be similar to what the U.S. have. And this makes sense. You've got the UH-60, you got the M1064, the M109A5, the M113, the Humvee, and things like that. So you will likely see copies of units. Now, one thing that I can't help but highlight is the sheer number of infantry units that this specialization offers. 21. which is a lot. I mean, I know I'm stating the obvious here, but that is a lot. If we go over here and we count them, you've got 2 here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you only get 13, like, here in from the units in the game, or at least not base units, the Baltic States forces from the campaign are here, and or in the base game you only have about 13 odd infantry units. No, I'm not counting these, because I don't imagine that they're going to be in the game, or at least they aren't going to be in the Baltic States. So that is a lot. That is a very, very, very large amount of infantry. And this is one of the reasons why I kind of think what we might see in the future is them taking the Baltic Battalion specialization and then basically peeling it apart to fill out 3 new specializations for the Baltic States countries. Because if we look at this, okay, most units or most specializations in the game have about 4 or 7 infantry squads. Oh, excuse me, hiccup. They have about 4 or 7, or 4 to 7. If we go to recon, you generally have about 1 to 3, unless you're SOCOM, in which you have 4, or your Guards Tank Battalion, which you don't have any. But still, infantry, I mean, you got, well, even then, 7 is still a bit of a stretch. It's more accurate to say about 4 to 6. So if we have 20 plus infantry, 21 new infantry units, that's a lot. And here's the thing. You can argue that they might be talking about things like customization. Okay. Because if I were to go over to, say, where's mech? There's mech. If I were to go to mech, all right, let's look at the mechanized infantry. Okay, this has 1 customization option. Let's count that as 2. 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. That's still 11. And if you go to recon, you're looking at 12, 14. Or if you go to motorized, you're looking at 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14. And mind you, these are infantry heavy specializations. Go to something like Guards Tank, and you're looking at 4, or just 4. VDV, you're looking at 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, 11, 13. Or if you look in the US, you've got the Marines, for example. 2, 4, 6, 12, no, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And that's assuming that you're counting each customization option as as an infantry unit. Even if I go to something like SOCOM, which has a lot of customization options. 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 14, 16, 18. So it doesn't really matter how you cut the cake. And to be fair, SOCOM has a lot of infantry options. But it doesn't really matter how you try and cut it. This Baltic Battalion specialization is going to have a lot of infantry to it. So, yeah. That's going to be very interesting. And then we have the vehicles. And, yeah. This is probably the part that I'm most interested in. First, we have the L-39. Now, if memory serves, this is primarily intended as a trainer/light attack aircraft. So what we might actually see this thing being used as in-game is maybe something akin to, like, the Su-25, the A-10. Well, maybe not the A-10. Maybe something more akin to something like the F-16 would probably be a better comparator. Something like the F-16C. So I wouldn't be surprised if this thing's able to carry rocket pods, possibly even Mavericks. You're likely going to be able to carry bombs, and maybe a few short-range air-to-air missiles for self-defense. What I don't expect this thing to be doing is gunning down things like Su-35s or Su-57s. We then have the Land Rover Defender. And this one is kind of interesting to me because the first thing I thought of when I saw this was that it looked a whole lot like the RSOV. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it looks a lot like the RSOV. However, if you look at it, it has a 50 caliber on top, and you've got what appears to be an M240/FN mag in the passenger seat. And this immediately reminded me of the UAZ, which has the same basic arrangement. So I'm guessing it's going to be something either like the UAZ or the RSOV. Okay, you can make an argument that it's also like the Warpig in this regard, because the Warpig has the same basic arrangement, at least if you decide to go for the 50 cal. But one thing that I'd be most interested in, because this is probably going to be a recon vehicle, is it going to be like the UAZ in that it's basically a light reconnaissance truck that doesn't carry infantry and has a light armament? Or is it going to be like the RSOV in that it's a light troop carrier? I don't know which, but we'll have to find out. And then we have NASAMS. And this one's kind of funny, because I remember in my first video speculating about new units and stuff, I suggested to add a book-style HIMAD air defense system to airborne infantry. I suggested just taking a NASAMS box launcher and plonking it onto a truck chassis much like this. The biggest difference, however, was that what I was talking about was plonking it onto an MTV chassis, and this is a larger 8-wheel chassis than the MTV. So this is interesting. However, one thing that I really want to know, is this a HIMAD air defense system? Is this a HIMAD system or a SHORAD system? Although HIMAD, well, I said HIMAD air defense system. That's technically an oxymoron because HIMAD stands for high and medium range air defense. So a HIMAD air defense system would be high and medium range air defense system. Anyway, I digress. Is this a HIMAD system? Now, the video did show, where is it? The video did show somewhere in here a pair of trucks if I can actually get this to work briefly. It did appear to show a pair of SAM systems mounted on trucks firing at these helicopters. However, if I'm not mistaken, those appear to be MMLs. So I'm not actually sure. So it doesn't tell me anything about the NASAMs. It also doesn't tell me whether or not we're going to get an MML, or at least an MML analog in the specialization, which I suppose could be interesting if we do. We then have the Leopard 2A8, and to be fair, this one is a bit surprising to me. Mainly because the Leopard 2A7 is in game. I have seen one person comment that this isn't the actual Leopard 2A8, this is just a Leopard 2A7 with an APS that was demonstrated in 2023. Personally, I have not looked into the Leopard 2s enough to know one way or the other. However, this particular image, I'd like to highlight a few changes. Firstly, we have the Leopard on the right, and this one appears to have an APS mounted. You have what appears to be an APS sensor right here, and launchers for a trophy system in the back. So it's likely this thing will have APS. But if you look at the Leopard on the left, this thing appears to have add-on ERA that the one on the right does not appear to have. You have these large blocks over the side skirt and on the side of the turret. I also can't help but point out that the Leopard on the left has a notable 50 caliber a notable RWS with an M2 Browning, which again the one on the right does not appear to have. So I wonder if these are two upgrades. So if we'll have the option of having the Leopard 2A8 base, which I suspect is actually this one in the background here, and then having an option of either mounting add-on ERA or a trophy system, or possibly both at the same time. Kind of like how you can mount the, kind of like how you can have a baseline Abrams, and then an Abrams with Tusk, an Abrams with trophy, or it's kind of like how you can have a baseline Abrams, and then you can either fit a Tusk package to it, trophy, or both. Is what I'm trying to get at. Still, this is all very, very interesting. I love it, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. And then we have 3 PZH-2000s. And I find 3 to be an interesting number, because you're probably going to actually get 3. Because that's the number of things like M109A6s, M109A7s, Koalitias, and the like, that you have in various other specializations. Overall, I think the PZH-2000 is going to be very interesting, but as I said in a previous video, I think it's a little bit steep if it's going to be 200 points for everything that you get. Maybe drop it down to like 180 or 170. Personally, if they make the changes that I suggested in the previous video about upping the armor of the PZH-2000 so it's actually kind of durable, then that might justify a higher price point. We also have a logistics vehicle. This appears to basically be akin to something like the LVSR or the Plus, with a shipping container on the back. Although I note that it's only an 8-wheeled vehicle rather than a 10-wheeled vehicle. So instead of carrying maybe 15,000 kilograms worth of supplies, you can only carry 12,000. But that's just my speculation. Again, we have the PZH-2000. A closer look at it this time. I think it looks nice. And, well, I basically said everything I was going to say about the PZH-2000 with the previous picture. That said, if they treat the PZH-2000 kind of like the equivalent of the Koalitia, I think it would be interesting. But the PZH-2000 stats and the Koalitia stats are, to be fair, different. And then we have a new map, which Kadaga, if I pronounced that correctly. I probably didn't, and I apologize for butchering that. But we have a new map, Kadaga Military Base. So, woot. I think that's the last... Okay, yeah, that's just the video, which is still having a moment. So, they did say that, they did say that we are going to get a scenario showcasing the Baltic units, and it's probably going to be on the new map, which I think is going to be very interesting. And hang on just a second. Here we go. These vehicles. These honestly, to me, these look like MMLs. So I don't know if we're going to get an MML equivalent in the Baltic State specialization. I suspect not. But we could probably get a. I mean, that could just represent the U.S. interoperability with the interoperability between the Baltic Battalion and the U.S. is what I'm trying to get at. So, anyway, I think that is all very, very interesting, and I cannot wait to get my hands on everything. I would love, honestly, I would just love it if they shared with us the statistics panels for these things. I want it. I just want it. I am a numbers nerd. Give me the stat panels. Give me this right here. So I can drool all over it while looking at the numbers. I don't care if they're going to change. Just give me something. Well, that was an interesting look. Like I said, I can't wait for more information. It did say, I believe it was, yes, Q1 2026. So, between January 1st and April 1st. And, okay, sure, that's not that big of a deal. I mean, I'm going to be eagerly waiting for it, but there's not that big of a deal. Anyway, well, that was this video.